Welcome to another episode of Full Circle with me, Onyx. And I'm probably just gonna talk. I don't know if I will actually post this video or not, but there's always a lot on my mind. And recently, I have been watching a very good little YouTube channel on Western Mystery Magic. I think it's called Mind and Magic by Frater Xavier. And he has a Pisces rising. And for some reason, we're on the same wavelength. Like, he's put out a bunch of videos, has courses on magic. A lot of it is sigil magic, but the principles behind magic. And I find he is a much better entertainer. Like, he tells stories of magic gone right, magic gone wrong, and but his founding principles is exactly what I believe through my evolution and my experience as practicing uh, in the magical arts. We came to the same conclusions, and he calls it being non-polarized, where I call it being a clear channel or an empty mirror. Uh, we come to that same place, and I feel like he fills in the blanks on the tactical advantages of being a non-polarized, and constantly working on that. Um, Understanding what triggers you, and then uprooting those anchors. Um, but I mean, in a weird way, I feel like I'm kind of complete with that, as I must move on in my personal journey and evolution. And what's really interesting about Western mystery magic, specifically working the Kabbalah, Tree of Life, path working, and working that system of magic, it's a blueprint to evolve you into a God being, which is referred to as the Adam Kadmon, the God Man. Uh, and there's a lot of occult stuff going into that, uh, like the Adamic seed. But basically, it's an ascension path. And Western magic has always had this evolution uh, going on in the background. So there's actually a purpose to Western mystery magic, uh, that really had nothing to do with like banishing and doing magical charms and fortune telling. It wasn't like folk magic, um, or I should say low magic, nature based magic. It's not like being a witch doctor or a medicine man. Western mystery magic has this like evolution going on to tap into higher dimensions and make the human more godlike, more spiritualized, more powerful, and to kind of speed up their evolution. And so, if you did not grasp that from Western mystery school magic, you've kind of missed the whole point. So, I mean, that was a big key right there. So, there was one YouTuber who had a very successful channel playing with dark magic and expressed the ideas of becoming a living god. Like, that was new. That's not new. That is true to Western mystery magic. Um, so I'm just throwing that out there as one of my thoughts I've been thinking about for a long time. It's been on the back burner. And the more you align with a certain frequency, a certain channel of information, the more it kind of transforms you naturally. So the more you hang out with angels, the more you're dialed in, the more your body has to go through a transformation and you become more angelic. So the more you align with dark energy, the darker you get. And your body goes through a physiological transformation and you become darker. So the more you align with nature, the more grounded and natural you become. And the more your ability to communicate with nature happens. So the more you align with the astral plane, the more astral, dreamlike, hallucinogenic experiences you'll have. And so, besides being aligned to that energy, that frequency, that ray, that band, that current, magical current, you also have to learn how to maintain it. Rituals help you maintain it for a certain period of time. The repetition, and so one big difference of rituals in Western mystery wasn't so much to like maybe get what you want, like $100 or your ex-boyfriend back. It was actually to help you adjust to those currents of energy, to maintain them, to let your body move through a transformational process consecutively, kind of like strategically, to move your evolution in a certain direction. So, an example, you might do um, a ritual for like Geburah, you know, Sephirah. And so, the sphere of Mars energy. And you might do that consecutively, like I would say every weekend, so 4 times a month for a year. And you would be aligned with that energy and you would undergo a spiritual physiological transformation. And so your path working up and down the tree of life could take years. Who has that type of patience but someone who knew the whole point, which was balancing yourself on the tree of life and elevating yourself on the tree of life? So the lesser work versus the greater work, your magnum opus, your life's work and what you're going to leave humanity. And so that really defines you. If you're truly um, taking your Western mystery education seriously. And hopefully that opens up your eyes to maybe what the pyramids were used for as human transforming, God making machines. Who's to say that we didn't manipulate our own DNA from the beginning, anyways? I kind of went on a tangent, but intuitively, it came through. That information came through. Because that's a huge key. And I feel like that's the point when, are you going to be in the outer circle and dabble and think and be curious and then sit on your ass and do nothing? And then go play with other systems to try to fill in the void? Or are you going to go, okay, now that I know this is about a type of human technology and it's an inside out process. And I actually have to invest in it with my time, my energy, and my life. Now that you have to invest so much, and now you know what the goal is to make yourself a better person through this transmutation. It is Isn't that what magic is? Change in the conformity of your will. Change. So you're willing yourself to become this God man. So Western mystery magic has a Christian flavor to it. Um, you know, Adam, Adam and Eve, the Adamic seed, tree of life, Garden of Eden. This is a symbolic structure. So Christianity is very woven in to the Western mystery tradition. We're not talking about the Eastern mystery school tradition. Both traditions are of one tradition. One is made specifically for the Western mind, while the other is for the Eastern mind. They're going to go through the same transformations. One will be using the chakra system, the other one will be using the tree of life system. The words, the letters, the myths, the stories are for two different minds because the mind is like, a program, and the programs are letters and images and colors, the correspondence table. And so you have to kind of look at it a little bit scientific, like a computer programmer. So once again, this is where we draw the line and say, are you going to be part of the outer mysteries, just a dabbler, a curious philosopher, a tinkerer, or are you going to, now that you're kind of getting a clue what it was really all about, what it is about, and the revelation, how can you interpret a symbol if you don't know where it's pointing? All symbols point to something. They're all signs. All signs point to a direction. But if you didn't know what the direction was, you were probably reading that symbol incorrectly. The evolution of the human species, the evolution through magical operations. These magical operations are psychological triggers to entice a spiritual, physiological transformation on a cellular level. So it has everything to do with changing your DNA, has everything to do with shifting your energy and your frequency under a magical current for a long enough time for the physiological transformation of you. So much for, potions, so much for sigils of planets. That was all introductory arts, you know. That was to see, that was a development of you. Are you able to align yourself with the planets? Are you able to work with elemental forces? Basically, the patterns of nature. And if so, to what extent? Because we then need you to be an operator of the computer, of the scientific equipment to literally do an operation on yourself using the language of the universe and its tools, its actions, which are the energies and frequencies, the patterns, to bring the best version of you here now to change the world, to be of service, you know. So, I mean, obviously, we're just continuing moving through this energy of what is coming through. I literally had a totally different intention for making this video. I was gonna, play with the witchcraft video, but then it just switched over to this heavier material. Now I need to take a little break from all that. Have you ever noticed that like Western mystery magic takes a more serious tone? It's more somber and maybe more commanding and eloquent in its speech, almost like a preacher preaching at you do's and don'ts, rights and wrongs. And it's kind of a big deal, you know? So usually when you get like occultists together of the Western mystery tradition, there's not a lot of laugh and game playing going on. There's some serious stuff going on. It's quiet, it's hushed, it's, meditative. Maybe at break time, there's social stuff, but when you really get into it, no one's really there to socialize. Like that just naturally happens because you're like in a fraternity of well-known people who meet all the time for these transmissions, these transformations, these practices, these developments. But it's kind of like when you go into, I almost would say, a surgery, like an operating room, but it's nothing like you would see from on TV where they're going to play music and talk and tell jokes and lose the tools in the patients. No, it's a little bit more serious, you know? Um, yeah, I don't think I'm even friends with any of the fellow occultists that I was working with when we would meet every weekend and do Tree of Life pathworking. You know, not even their friend. I'm not even friends with the teacher. I'm like, and in a weird way, that was kind of a loose term, teacher, because we're all kind of like having a transformational experience. So it's a very personal art, and it requires a lot out of you, honestly. Like, so the base program in the school I was in, they had a psychic development course that ran that the school offered. And it actually had the regular psychic development, then it had the advanced. And I got put in the advanced, I skipped. And so when I was in it, I didn't know what I was doing. I was like, oh my God, a black mirror. Oh my God, sigils of planets. And I was supposed to have already um, done some of the preliminary work of elemental magic, spirits and beings. And so the first time I felt out of place, I was like, oh my God, like I can't see half the stuff that the instructor can see, these beings, nor pronounce their names, what's going on. So I remember I retook the class like the next year and got more familiar with it. And then after that program, even though I passed, I personally felt like I didn't pass at all. And then it was like, oh, there was a whole other program I was supposed to do first. I was like, oh, that's why. So literally I missed like a year of schooling. It's like I skipped grades. Um and so that's when I made my own Black Mirror. That's when I really took on that practice of summoning through the Black Mirror. And it wasn't working so well. So I switched to a crystal ball and it worked for me. Um, and I got more serious about it. One winter, I was like, you know what? I'm going to master this or have a better experience of this because this either is a thing or it's not a thing. And I need to know if I'm capable of that thing. So I'm like, you're just going to have to train like an Olympian. Like, you're just going to have to take this on. And so I was like, take it like a real class. You're going to do it every day. You're going to do it for an hour. That's it. No questions asked. And within 2 weeks, actually I gave myself a month, but I go, within a month, if you haven't had a powerful experience with the black mirror or a crystal ball, then you're going to like call it quits. You're going to say, fuck this. Working with spirits is not for me, whatever you're going to say. And literally, because I resolved that I was going to do it, I had that. I was so determined. I was like, you're going to sit here. You're going to look into that crystal, you know, and you're just going to leave your mind open and you're going to see whatever pops up. And it worked. I was like, what? And after that experience, it was literally, so I had like a obsidian palm stone in my hand, which is this oval stone. And I remember it basically was crystal clear like a TV. And I saw like a pair of hands reach into a black top hat and pull out a white albino bunny. And it was so clear, I could almost smell the air and feel the bunny's fur. I was like, this was like more than a hologram. It was like next level hologram. I was like, holy cow. And that was like, I wouldn't say an awakening, but it was like an awakening. It was like, whoa, like this shit is real. And I just needed to have more determination, more personal resolve. I needed to take it way more serious. And once I made up my mind and my will was galvanized to the task, then I could let loose, relax, and let the experience happen. So it was almost like a slingshot. Me like pulling it back was my determination, my will, my resolve, you know, being my word. And then I could relax, let go, and hit the mark and have a really powerful scrying experience. And I was like, okay, beginner's luck. And so then I was like, can we do this again? I'm like, yeah. So I found out after about 20 minutes of staring, my third eye would open up and I could see what I needed to see. And so I knew, okay, I just have to gently relax and look at this ball for about 20 minutes, kind of maybe tinker around a little bit, like throw out a few imaginary images or shift the focus a little bit, just kind of like do a few adjustments, and then it's just going to open. And it did. And then I noticed consistency. Consistency made it happen easier and quicker, to the point where, okay, I can use a crystal ball or not a crystal ball. I now understand how to the scrying. I now the inner vision. And so I've always had inner vision. I've always done it inwardly. Now I've learned to project it outwardly on the screen of like a crystal ball. So at that point, I understood so many things that the books were trying to teach you, that classes and seminars were trying to teach you. A few experiences of like journeying through a crystal ball, like astral projecting, uh, opened up all the doors. I it's like I could write 2 or 3 books with the type of experiences I've had with the crystal ball. Just like I could write books on lucid dreaming and astral projection. And they're going to be completely different than all the books out there and all the how to courses because it's how I did it. It's my living knowledge. Um, but obviously, all these skills is something someone else can learn on their own. But the art is alive when you're invested in it. So the more you invest in it, it's that balance again. The more you're like clearly, like you have to have that end goal, that vision. So, you know, it's like I can draw a picture of my angel. I can see him. Like, I remember I didn't even believe in angels until obviously I had an encounter with him. And I remember what he looks like. I've drawn like maybe 10 pictures of him. So now it's not a belief, it's not a philosophy anymore. It's like, no, I don't even believe in angels yet. I'm having an experience with an angel. No, I could not scry. Now I can scry. I mean, it's not a belief anymore. It's a skill. It's a reality. Um, so this is the type of stuff that can happen during your development in your magical practice, whether it's witchcraft or whatever it is. I would just say take it serious. And you only get serious about it if you have to sacrifice something. You're sacrificing your time, you're sacrificing your energy, and then you only take it serious if it's really focused. And I would say the end goal, now that I kind of gave you that huge key of what the end goal is, self evolution to the point where you're like a demigod, like you're a semi divine being here because you have access to these planes, but yet you're also a flesh. It's like you are aligned in every dimension. Now that you kind of know that was the goal of the Western mystery tradition, you could figure out a goal for yourself, whatever the best version of you looks like, and try to become that. And then your rituals will actually have a purpose. It's like, why am I casting a circle? Why am I opening up the 4 directions? Why am I even summoning an elemental spirit to assist me in my practice? You know? Or what do these tarot cards really mean once I plug them into the tree of life? If it's not about fortune telling, then what is it? And if the tree of life isn't just the blueprint for the human, it's also the blueprint for our solar system and universe, then what is it saying to me? When the moon is literally the moon on its 28-day cycle, what does the moon card now say? You know, why is it so low in the tree of life, next to the earth? So you can start looking at it like that and gain a whole new level of insights. If the tarot cards really weren't used for fortune telling and it was basically the codex of the Western mystery school, then what are you decoding? So all I can say is there's endless knowledge that's been handed to us. There's so many books. And I would say more and more and more information isn't so important. but having the ability to meditate, having the ability to allow your own insight and intuition bubble up with answers, and then having enough practice with your tools. So summoning becomes really important uh, when you're asking for angelic assistance for your personal evolution. Uh, it's not all about just clearing a space of haunted houses and doing shaman work for other people. The the Western mystery. So you'll notice, soon as you change the whole purpose of your Western mystery magical uh, rituals towards your personal evolution, the dial is going to crank up. Your your abilities are going to crank up because now you're in kind of co-creation with all the planes of the universe, and you're on a spiritual journey now. Like you're on an evolutionary path that is actually would be the universe would prefer you to be more evolved. So you're going to get more assistance. You're going to get more power just because you now have this goal of being a better version of you. And so in a weird way, it's almost automatic protection. So, and then you can start weeding out. You can now have better discernment on maybe other people who are talking about magic and mystery school type stuff. You're like, hey, if this isn't about me becoming a, a more powerful being, evolutionary wise, then this information is probably from someone who's not really done Western mystery, or maybe went through it, didn't get the point. You know, like I'm sure your angelic team is going to show up more for you because you're saying, I want to evolve. I want to put myself in the divine blueprint of the tree of life as it was intended to balance my energy body, to awaken dormant latent powers, to activate, to transform, to harmonize, to become part of this evolutionary current. Our angels are, that's what we're made for. We are the architecture of the universe. The angels are the architecture of the universe. So when you're aligning yourself with that architecture, when you're saying, yes, I want